Hi everybody. I got a request to do mergeTwo, and I'll be honest, mergeTwo I think is the hardest question in this whole problem set. First of all, I didn't teach you how to use compare2, so that makes it pretty hard. So we're going to learn how to use compare2. And even if you know how to use compare2, it's still pretty hard, and I got stuck on this question, not because of compare2, but I had a difficulty figuring out um, what do you do if you have sort of the same letters in each array? And I made like these complex while loops and stuff, and it worked, but it was overkill. So I figured out a smooth way to do it, and I'm going to show you right now. But first, I'm going to show you compare2, how that works. And then maybe you want to just go and try this question again when you actually understand what compare2 does. So I have a good old notepad ready to go. Notepad uh, is a powerful editor for nothing really, but we'll use it. So here's an example of compare2. We're going to compare A to Z. Now, compare2 is a method that is callable from many things, not just strings, but anything that can be ordered. So for example, capital I integer objects, remember the wrapper classes, capital D doubles. We could have written it for our fraction class, and I think we might do that as an exercise. There's all sorts of things that you can use compare2 with. It's sort of the standard thing that you're expected to be able to use in many objects. Any kind of object that has an order inherent to it, such as strings. Strings have alphabetical order. Theoretically, I suppose there's strings like you could put a number as a string. That it would be a little bit complicated, but this is designed to compare for alphabetical order. So here's what you want to do with compare2. You would like to say compare two strings. So I'm gonna maybe make a slightly more complicated. It's C equals this. Oh, right. All right. So the compare2 method returns an integer that tells you the results of this comparison. We're comparing A to Z. So you know as an English speaker that A comes before Z. So how does compare2 give you that information? So basically, if the object from which you're calling compare2 from, so the one on the left-hand side, had to think about my left and right for a second. If that one comes first, then it returns -1. Or actually, I shouldn't say -1. That'll get us into trouble. It returns a negative. So C is a negative number in this case. Now, if we did, and we don't know which one, I forget the reason why it returns a random. It's not actually random. I forget the details, but you don't need to know the details. You just need to know that if A comes before, or sorry, this comes before the parameter, then it returns a negative number, a number less than 0. So let's do another example. Let's call this actually C1. So C2. Uh, if we did A dot compare to A, so if we did this, these are the same, correct? Yeah, so you could actually use compare to instead of equals. Equals, this is like a powerful version of equals. Equals returns true and false. Compare to returns a number. So how does it tell you that they're equal? So in this case, compare to will return 0. So in this case, C2 is 0, and it's exactly 0. There's no randomness to this. If the string you're calling compare2 from and the parameter are equivalent to each other, for the same string, then it will compare2 method return 0. What about if you did this? Z dot compare to A. So if this string comes after this string, then it returns a positive number. C3 will be positive. And it's not necessarily 1, just any positive number. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter what the number is. Just know it's greater than a number greater than 0. So, I mean, you don't really need compare to when they're literal strings, and we'll show an example of using variables, and I think that'll help a lot. So, but you can see clearly that that comes after A. So how are you supposed to memorize this? It seems very arbitrary. So the idea is that it's supposed to sort of represent a number line. If you go to a number line, I'll just go open up a Google search and look for a number line. Let's look at an image of a number line. I'm pretty sure you could conjure that in your mind right now, but let's take no risk. We need one that has positive and negative in it. Oh, why is that so hard? One with negative? Oh man. I love being such a great teacher. Yeah, here we go. Here's a number line. Let's just show this image. Open image in new tab. Beautiful. Okay, so see how a number line works? Aren't you glad you took AP Computer Science? So, hey, look, negative numbers are over on the left. 0 is in the middle. Positive numbers are over on the right. This is the secret to understanding how compare to works. That's why it returns negative or positive or 0. It's telling you if the left number comes before or the right number comes before or if they're the same. So here's another example. So int C4 equals, oh, that's a little funny joke for people that play shooter games, I guess, and like to blow things up. C4, so let's compare, let's pretend there's a string called str1 dot compare to str2. There's 2 different strings. So maybe these are strings that are sent as parameters. We don't know what their value is, but we're trying to, let's say we want to return the smaller string. We want to return whichever string comes first in the alphabet. So what do we do? So we're going to take a look at C4, and we're going to see if we got a negative number. Well, take a look at the number line again, right? If it's a negative number, then the left hand is indicating the left-hand side. So that means str1 wins. It's on the left. If C4 is a positive number, it's going to be indicating the right-hand side. Therefore, this string is the one that alphabetically comes first, right? The positive and negativeness of the number isn't really important in telling you anything other than if the left or the right string won. And then if it's 0, of course, that's smack dab in the middle. That means that they're the same. Oh, that was a lot of talking to get that across. I know it's complicated though. Feel free to rewind this video and check that out again. Anyways, if I wanted to finish that bit of code, I'd write an if statement to say something like, if C4 is less than 0, then I would return str1. And then you can do an else if, I suppose. If so C4 is greater than 0, return str2 because it's positive. And then I don't know, you could do if they're equal, you could just do an else. I'm not sure. This is just an imaginary example, so return equal. I don't know. I'm not too sure what the point of this question is. This is just some random question I came up with. But you see how to use compare to? Compare to tells you that information, and that's how it works. So let's go back to the actual question. So here we are trying to merge these 2 arrays. And the idea is that we're taking the smallest elements from each. And I'm just going to remind myself, I think you're supposed to get the first n elements from the 2 arrays. So if we say n is 3, then we're going to get the 3 smallest elements or strings from both these arrays. So we're going to get an A, a B, and a C. So that's the story. And of course, we got to use compare to be comparing. There's an important thing about this question you need to know, and that is these arrays are already sorted. They're in alphabetical order from lowest to highest. So that helps us a lot. So here's how I answered this question. And by the way, if you want to stop there, if that clarification was good, you might want to go and try the question now that you know what compare to is and so on. But I'll go into the answer. If you want to pause it and try it first, then please, that's a good idea. Otherwise, follow me now. Or maybe you just finished unpausing. So here's my solution. It's a bit on the long side. I don't know if there's a faster way of doing it, but I basically have an index for my A string. This is like an index variable for my A array, I should say, sorry, a string array. And then this is a variable that's my index for the B string array. And then I make my new C string array. It's basically going to be my answer. I'm going to load up the smallest elements from A and B into this thing. And eventually at the end, I return C. All right, so I'm going to make a for loop to do this. It's going to go from 0 to n because that's what the question is asking us to do. And this I is going to be the index for C. Oh, hi, Mr. Lowe. I'll talk to you later. I'm in the middle of a video. This social media teaching thing is just, it's great. I mean, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. And I shouldn't complain. So we have this lovely loop, and that's what I is for. It's going to be the index for my answer array. So here's me doing the compare to method. I need to get the strings out of the arrays, and they're starting at 0, so I get the first string in the first iteration. I get the first string, and I compare it to the first string of B. So the first string of A, compare it to the first string of B. Who wins? So I have this if statement to see, hey, is it less than 0? That means A won, right? The smaller one is in A. So then I copy it over from A into C, and then I increment forward the index of A. So that's what would have happened in this case, right? So if I was looking at these two, I would be comparing A sub 0 with B sub 0. I get A versus B, so this one wins. So I increment forward, so the next time I'll be looking at C versus B. So that's how that works. So if it was greater than 0, that means that the smaller string was in the B array. It was in this one, right? It's a positive number, so the right-hand side wins. So then I'm going to copy over the string that was in the B array into my answer array, and then I'll increment the counter for, or the index for B. Last but not least, well, guess what? If they were equal, it doesn't matter which one we copy over from. I could copy over from A or B, it doesn't really matter. So I copy it over from A, but then you got to increment them both forward. And this is what I just had trouble getting this one. This is the one that I struggled with. I made some elaborate while loops. I put a while loop in here and a while loop in here to like move them forward. But it turns out to be just that simple. If they're the same letter, then move them both forward. Copy it over, but you don't need to consider that letter again. Part of the question is that these are all unique values that you put into here. So if you have this example here, A wins, C wins, and then why is it F? There's another C. That's the thing. You don't want duplicates in your answer, so that helps a lot. And that's the story. I hope that helps a lot, but do please let me know if that wasn't clear. This video's gone on for a while. The explaining the compare to thing in Notepad, not my smoothest teaching, but I hope it makes sense. And if you're having trouble, I'll post some more stuff, some links to some tutorials about compare to, and hopefully that helps out. All right, everybody, take care.